As we step into 2025, I want to invite you to think about this year a little differently. Instead of thinking about all of the things that you want to do differently, which are resolutions, start to think about how you want to feel and show up differently. How do you want your experience of life to shift? Now, before we look ahead to that, take a moment and reflect back on 2024. Now, I'm sure, like most people, there was some troubling times, but there's always also great times. There's wins, there's acknowledgments, there's achievements. Think back to some of the subtle ways that you've grown. How do you look at things differently? What difficulties did you have? And more importantly, what did you learn from them? How did you grow? What new perspectives do you have? Sometimes the biggest wins aren't the obvious achievements, but the subtle ways that we start to shift in how we show up in our lives. I think of a leader that I worked with this year, and one of her biggest struggles was that she would get very stressed out at work and find herself snapping at people, sometimes not showing up as her best self. She tried and tried to change her behavior. But when we started to focus on changing her energy, which is what dictates how we show up, how we interact, how we experience life, how we feel, and our outcomes, that is what had her start to create real transformational change. She not only changed her interactions with her clients and her coworkers, but she actually got to a place where she was coaching other people to do the same. This wasn't about forcing a change of actions. It was about transforming energy so that the behaviors came naturally. It didn't have to be such an effort. One of the reasons that I am not a big fan of resolutions is because when we focus on behavior change, it's not natural. If we could change the behavior that we're not loving about ourselves, we would have done it already. So what happens is we draw some kind of a demarcation in time, and oftentimes it's New Year's. Could be a birthday, could be a season change. We say, once that happens, then I will. And the time comes and we force ourselves and we strong arm ourselves into changing our behavior. But it doesn't last because what's underneath the energy that we're showing up with, that's what's driving the behavior. When that doesn't change, it's very hard to maintain a behavior shift. As we look ahead to 2025, what is it that you want to create? How do you want to show up? Who do you want to be? What do you want to feel? And what do you want your experience of life to be? When you think about the goal that you want to achieve, see if you can start to think about it in line with those questions. What energy do you want to bring to relationships? How do you want to show up for yourself and others? Where could releasing old patterns create space for new possibilities? Remember, happiness is not a mood. It's a context from which to live. It's a choice. Living inside of a context of happiness does not mean that you always feel happy, but it's a place to return to. I invite you to choose your energy consciously, because what you focus on is what is going to show up for you in your life. So with that, I wish you a very happy new year. And remember, if getting to work on learning how to shift your energy, to shift your outcomes, to shift your experience of life is something that you would like to be part of 2025 for you, give me a call and let's talk about what's possible. In the meantime, have a great new year.